Welcome to the Explainer. So today we're looking at a truly fascinating double feature. We're going to take a deep dive into a huge frustration in modern technical industries, the corporate trap of degree inflation. But there's a fun little twist. Woven right into our analysis of workplace culture is a hidden masterclass in advanced C1 English. We're actually going to unpack the exact language professionals use to discuss complex problems. It's basically a 2-for-1 deal today, and I am so excited to jump into this with you.
Picture this. Have you ever worked with someone who has an absolute mountain of degrees, certificates, and framed diplomas, but when it actually comes time to do the work, they completely struggle with basic practical tasks? Yeah, if you're nodding your head right now, you are definitely not alone. We've all been there, and we're going to look at exactly why this happens.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today. First, we'll hit the paper expert trap, followed by the danger of the frozen mindset. Then, we'll weigh degrees against real skills. And for our surprise twist, we'll pivot into that high-level English grammar breakdown, looking specifically at participle clauses and reduced time clauses. All right, starting off with Section 1, the paper expert trap. This whole thing is rooted in a growing and honestly kind of dangerous phenomenon in the corporate world known as degree inflation. You see, companies today often fall into the trap of hiring purely based on a thick portfolio of certificates. They make this massive assumption that a heavy stack of diplomas automatically equals high competence. But man, there is a striking gap between those theoretical credentials and practical reality. Someone can look like an absolute superstar on paper, but hands-on tasks and actually getting the math right, that tells a completely different story.
Let's put this into a real-world context. Imagine a high-level technical department. You've got a senior team member holding multiple degrees, maybe some management certificates to boot. But what actually happens day to day? The exact moment they are faced with a real, hands-on task, like calculating a mechanical load or troubleshooting a modern software system, boom, they immediately delegate the work to others. They completely dodge the technical responsibility. And it's incredibly frustrating for the real, hardworking experts on the team who just get pushed into the background.
Now, as problematic as the paper expert is, there's an even more dangerous phenomenon that goes hand in hand with it, which brings us to Section 2, the frozen mindset danger.
So, what is a frozen mindset? It's basically when an employee completely relies on their past credentials and just flat out refuses to learn new technologies. They won't touch new CAD software. They ignore modern engineering standards. Why? Because they claim their old degrees are enough to sustain them forever. They are literally frozen in the past.
And the fallout from this is wild. It leads to extreme conceptual errors that clash with basic physics and geometry. This lack of updated knowledge doesn't just slow a project down, it leads to unbelievable mistakes. I mean, you just cannot argue with physics or geometry because you have an old management certificate hanging on your wall. It simply doesn't work that way.
Which brings us right into Section 3, degrees versus real skills. What is the ultimate cost of a system that values bureaucratic papers over the actual tangible ability to solve practical problems? Well, it compromises efficiency across the board.
And this brilliantly illustrates a core truth for basically any industry. Mechanical systems, production lines, and physical structures don't care about titles. They only care if the math is correct and the design actually works. A certificate is really just a snapshot of the past, right? It's never a guarantee of present skill.
Okay, I have a little confession to make here. That entire analysis we just went through, the specific wording I used wasn't just to talk about engineering or corporate culture. It was deliberately constructed using advanced C1 English structures. So, surprise, this explainer isn't just about professional skills. We are actually upgrading your professional English today.
Let's jump right into Section 4. English lesson participle clauses. Let's decode the exact grammar we just used. This is the feature that gives professional text its incredibly dynamic and sophisticated tone.
You might want to take a screenshot of this for your notes. Present participle clauses are grammatical structures that use an ing verb to concisely express an accompanying action or mindset. We use these all the time in advanced academic and business English to combine ideas together really smoothly.
Now, what's really interesting about this slide is seeing it in action from the exact text we just analyzed. On the left, we have standard English. A beginner might say, companies hire people because they assume diplomas equal competence. Or maybe they say, an employee refuses to learn as they claim their degrees are enough. It's fine, but on the right, look at the advanced C1 version we actually used. Assuming that a stack
and claiming their old degrees. Do you see how much smoother and more sophisticated that flows?
So why does this actually matter for your English? Well, it allows you to express a simultaneous action or mindset incredibly concisely. Most importantly, it avoids overloading your sentences with clunky conjunctions like because or as. It just instantly elevates your professional tone, making you sound way more like a native-level industry expert.
Let's move to and see how this builds into our final grammatical feature in Section 5, reduced time clauses.
So what exactly are they? A reduced time clause is basically a shortened clause, very often using a reduced passive form. It tells the listener when something happens, but it completely skips the full subject and verb. It strips the sentence down to its absolute most efficient parts. Let's pull another direct example from our discussion on paper experts. The standard, everyday way to say this would be, yet, when they are faced with a real hands-on task, they delegate the work. But check out the advanced C1 version on the right. Yet when faced with a real hands-on task, we entirely dropped they are. We went straight from when to the passive form faced.
So the crucial point is why we make this structural choice. First off, this technique accelerates the reading pace, but strategically, it shifts the focus directly onto the professional situation itself rather than the person performing the action. This de-emphasis of the subject is a huge hallmark of academic and business English. It makes your communication sound incredibly objective, fast, and highly professional.
And that brings us full circle. We've exposed the corporate trap of degree inflation, and we've upgraded our language toolkit with some serious C1 advanced English structures. Now, it is your turn to put this into practice. Thinking back to our opening question, have you ever met a paper expert in your field? Head down to the comments and share your thoughts. And hey, try using a present participle clause or a reduced time clause when you write it. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep learning and keep solving those practical problems. Catch you in the next one.